Is it keep going down?
I don't know.
We had a problem with the other mic last time. So
We did. So it might. Is it the port that you're plugging it into? I don't know. Anyway, there's another really good one. Mexican lager cream ale. Will you boil for 60 or 90 minutes? What?
Move away from your face now.
Oh, okay. Was it just like suppressed?
There's a pad on it.
All right, Mexican lager, cream ale, since we're talking about Mexican lager right now, and this is a very delicious thing. Also a way to get rid of corny flavors and some precursors that will give you sulfur and things like that, is the longer boil. Especially in your light, delicate beers, doing a 90-minute or even a 2-hour boil is very helpful. One, you're going to get a little bit of that Maillard reaction. You're going to get some more shelf stabilization because of the Maillard reaction. A little bit boost on that nice, subtle sweetness from the grain because of the Maillard. But also, you're going to be helping your beer not create DMS or sulfur by eliminating the precursors in the boil. And that is actually very important for something that you are cold fermenting, since sulfur really tends to hang around and TMS can't get off-gassed or anything like that.
You're doing is that the Mexican lager cream ale?
The Mexican lager cream ale. Would you boil for 60 or 90? I would personally boil for 90.
There's also a lot of shelf-stable compounds that you're going to make by doing the longer boil time, and so DMS, the precursors have to be in the malt in the first place. And so if you get fresh Pilsner malt that's highly modified, today's malt's not as much of a risk. Oxidized malt has DMSO, which that is a risk, and you have to boil long to get rid of that. But that's only if the malts are stored badly. And of course, a lot of traditional malts will naturally have the SMM, the S-methylmethionine, in them. And so those ones you just need to boil for that reason. But there are a lot of malts that, for example, our best malt's Pilsner that probably won't have SMM just because of because a lot of the SMM probably broke down during the malting process. So for that part, it might not be a risk, but it's always just a good idea to boil longer. But the really good reason to boil longer is also it creates shelf stabilizing compounds like reductones. And it also will help clarify the beer. So kind of two ways to get your beer tasting fresh or tasting good sooner and making the beer last longer.
It's just a really good thing to do on these nice, light, delicate beers, especially when you're doing cold fermentation on it. Yeah. What is the, Dave Dempster, what is the benefit of minimizing trub in your fermenter? Is there specific styles wherein this is more important? One of the big benefits of that is just keeping all of that material out. A good place to make sure that you don't get the trub in there is your heavily hopped beers or your higher hopped, more delicate beers like Pilsner. If you have all that plant material inside your fermenter, all that trub in your fermenter, that's going to continue to extract, but it's going to not continue to extract good hop stuff. It's going to continue to extract the grassy, green chlorophyll flavors. And you don't want that. You don't want that in your beers. Don't ruin it that way.
If you're a newer brewer, and especially if you have a bucket fermenter, something that's really easy to do that kind of has a twofold benefit for you is just run your beer through a strainer going into your fermenter. Because first of all, it's going to eliminate a lot of the trub stuff, especially hop materials, like Tim said, was really important. And secondly, it's also going to serve to help oxygenate your wort. So It's a great hack for beginner brewers to make pretty damn good beer every single time.
Beyond just the hops, there's a whole bunch of proteins, coagulated proteins, and other stuff like that dropped out that you just don't want in your beer.
Ooh, is there haze at the bottom of this?
It's probably yeasty.
Want some yeast?
I mean, in all honesty, let's try it with the yeast in there and see how much it affects the flavor. You don't want those proteins in your beer because they could go back into solution, create some haze problems, create some mouthfeel problems, and give you a little bit of proteiny flavor. So it's always better not to risk it for that biscuit. Don't.
Limp biscuit.
If you don't have to, there's no reason to risk it. So just try and minimize the trub to help protect the flavor of your beer.
Nocturnal brewer, what would you recommend your top 3 malts that would be versatile? Do you mean in terms of the crystal malts that you asked about? So in terms of the crystal malts, my top 3 malts that I'll use that are very versatile are Special X, Red X, and any sort of a pseudo crystal like Caram Munich would be pretty good. Those kind of be my 3 range building malts. More often than not, if I just want coloration, I'll probably use a smaller amount of Special X rather than using a larger amount of anything else. But those are 3 really good go-tos.
Caram Munich is probably my favorite coloring malt out there. I just love the flavor that Caram Munich gives you, or Special B. But I have a really soft spot in my heart for that really nice figgy dateness that Special B gives you.
Yeah.
And the color of it is, I love that color. Or something like Dark Munich too. If you just need a little bit of a light color change, well, all right, now I'm getting into other things. But, all right. Yeah, the yeast on this actually didn't affect the flavor too much.
Yeah.
That is one thing. I mean, I will say that about this, when you guys, if you go into packaging, making a style like a Mexican lager, a lot of your customers will come into it thinking that it is going to be a really bright, clean, clear, crispy beer. So to certain crowds, having that little bit of a haze could be a detriment in there. But not to me.
KO Brewing, is the mash pH taken at 15 minutes or one taken at completion at 60 more important? I typically raise a whole point. I think it's odd you're raising a whole point if you mean like 5.2 to 6.2. That should not happen. But that said, it's good to take it at the beginning of the mash once everything's kind of settled in. So your malts will actually lower your mash pH just naturally, and so it does take a little bit of time after mashing in for that whole thing to equalize. But yeah, it should be just the one taken, I would say, at 15 minutes.
Yeah. I just read it in there. Chris Jarvis, ever used Wireman Abbey malt? I've got a sack of it here. There's not a ton of info out there beside it being a base malt. 15.5 to 19.3 degree Lovabond. Recommended usage rate 50%. Yes. We actually have some Abbey malt upstairs. I had to do a ton of research on it too. I didn't find where a lot of people were using it. I didn't find a lot of information on it. Luckily, you brought it up and we used it. The biggest deal about Abbey malt is it's really friable. What that basically means is this shit powders when you mill it up, but it doesn't gum up in your mash tun. So it's great for lagerability, but it's also great for doing something like a turbid mash where you're trying to really reduce the amount of stuff that's in your mash tun for it.
Now,
Go.
I would say because of its makeup, I would also say it's just a good process-driven malt to use. And so if you use 50% of the Abbey malt and then you use the rest, let's say Pilsner malt, or even if you want to go crazy and do like 50% Abbey malt, 50% oat malt, all these things are things that if you want a really, really tough brew day, but to make a really good beer by doing decoction, by stirring your mash constantly, by doing a turbid mash, like all those different things, there's a lot that you can do with the Abbey malt to make it taste really good.
Yeah.
It's very flavorful.
It is extremely flavorful, and it is much, much darker than you think it is. It feels, those degrees, that's in your red color of range beers, and that is a pretty darn red malt. It is also a very dry red malt. It doesn't have a lot of the undertones of sweetness. Like some of the Abv Beers in there, it gets dry fruitiness instead of caramely sweet fruitiness that goes into it. It's a really, really cool malt. What I would probably suggest you do, if you want to try it out, is pair it up with a really nice Pilsner. Go 30% Abbey, 70% Pilsner on there. Make a nice little kind of Belgian amber type beer with that, and then you'll see exactly what it's going to do. Really great malt. I personally use it more as a color adjustment. Especially when I want the beer to be drier than a Cara, Crystal, Munich, or something Special X.
Yeah. Nick Moon, I want to make a tincture with apples. How much should I make for a 3-gallon batch? First of all, making a tincture with apples will be difficult. I'll tell you that right now. Depending on how you want the apple flavor to come out, I would almost recommend cooking some down, trying to get some extra sweetness off the apples. That said, if you're making a 3-gallon batch, you'd probably want to make a solid amount just because of how light apple flavor is going to be.
Ooh. Okay, sorry to interrupt you right there. So, here's what I would probably do with that maybe instead is making an apple molasses for a flavor.
Yeah.
So the apple tincture, apple's a really nice light in flavor, and like Peter said, it's going to be difficult. You take a lot of that apple juice and just reduce it down into a beautiful apple molasses. That'll give you extremely intense apple flavor. It will give you sugar, though.
Yeah, it'll also give you a little bit of the acidity to concentrate too. I wonder if you could just combat that with like some bicarbonate or something like that.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
That'd be a fun experiment. But if you're going, so depending on the apple flavor you're going for, so like, let's say it's a sour and you're going for that light, crisp, bright, acidic apple flavor, then I think a regular tincture that you make at home could be pretty good. But if you're going for like something like dark, sweet fall apple flavor, almost your best solution would just be to buy one of those like little moonshine jars of apple pie and just use that in your beer.
Oh,
the little bugger got away.
I know. I'm trying not to slam the table. All right, let's move on to our next beer. We're going to taste a dark Mexican lager from Next Level Brewing in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is 6.2%. You guys like strong beer. I mean, you like strong lagers.
For the style, yeah.
That is impressive. I mean, I'm not against it, but impressive. What is this? Viejo North Knox Dark Mexican Lager. Let's hit this up. Let's do it. This is actually one thing. They sent us really fresh beer.
Yes.
Almost everything in here is extremely fresh. I think the oldest thing might be that IPA, but it's all within like July. Very well, pretty much within the good date ranges when you should be drinking it.
And we've had these for about 3 weeks too. So like by the time they got to us, they were like really fresh.
And that was really great. I mean, that's a great job on Beervana. Check your dates, and especially don't send people like us old beer.
Yes. Although we might let it sit around on accident just because we have a lot of beer.
But then that's our fault, not yours.
Exactly.
Oh, look at that. That is creamy.
That is Modelo extra, extra, extra.
This is what Negro Modelo used to be.
Back when a proper German ran the operation.
And you know, I'm not even going to say I still love drinking Negro Modelo. Modelo Especial. Still super delicious to me, but...
We should go to Vasqueros today. Raise your hand if you guys want to go to Vasqueros with us. All right, we'll see you guys there at, let's call it 3 p.m.
Okay, let's get into... This is a super, like, dense, creamy, rich head coming off this. You normally don't see that in dark Mexican lagers. I mean, that's really nice, stout-like. Really dark colors to it. Ooh.
This is a fantastic beer. I would not pin it as a Mexican lager.
That is so tasty.
That's got so much good going on.
That is an incredible beer. This is not a dark Mexican lager.
It's got biscuit and cracker and chocolate notes, and all of those are really big notes. It's also, it's not full, like sweet thick on the body, but it's got some lingering proteins that are kind of causing that puffiness to stay in my mouth.
Dunkel.
Almost like the Dunkel Schwarzbier kind of hybrid.
It's too dark for a Schwarz.
It's not fruity. It's not figgy enough for a Dunkel though. It doesn't have all those Maillard characters.
No.
And I think it might have corn in it too, because it's got some sort of like.
Yeah.
The dark malts aren't roast astringent. They're not building to be aggressive at all.
Yeah.
But they just hang on like chocolate that just kind of like floats away. It's like chocolate.
That's where I'm getting the Dunkel out of it. It's just that, and that this is very much the German influence, which a lot of Mexican brewing is very much German influenced on that.
Yes.
It's too big and roasty for a Schwarzbier, which is what technically a Mexican dark lager should be. Well, I guess I take that back. It depends on where you go. It's either a Vienna or a Schwarz. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
It's too roasty for a Schwarz, but it's not quite fruity enough for a Dunkel. The beer itself, you can tell, is super crispy, but that roast just... That's a beautiful roast.
Yeah, it's not astringent at all. It's not stout-like. It's just there and then goes away.
All right, next level.
Tons of bread and cracker notes that just kind of make this very, very delightful.
This is a beautiful lager stout, tropical stout, almost. Not quite. It's not quite fruity enough.
Yeah, it's not fruity enough for a tropical stout.
Yeah. This is a beer outside of a style, and it is beautiful. It is awesome. You need to send us more, and also some more of like whatever other beer you want to send us, please.
Yeah,
Please.
That's really good. That's next level.
Yeah. Ah, delicious. All right, let's get back into there. Gianhio. Oh man, we butchered your name so bad. I apologize for that, but Gianhio.
And that's after he bought
okay.
He bought some kits that we couldn't send him to.
I know. And he super chats. We have trouble shipping internationally, and we get really nervous about doing that with our yeast and hops. We don't know how they travel. And
we'll know it's cost prohibitive on that one.
That too. Well,
yeah.
I just sending people stuff so far away. It'd be better if you could buy it locally to make sure you're getting it fresher.
On the website, we had it limited to just in the States, but then I think Ryan started messing with the website and the shipping and stuff like that, and
it opened
all of a sudden it was available. So
all right. Anyway, he's asking us.
We appreciate the hell out of you. That's what I'm trying to say.
We love you, and we wish we could do more for you. I rehydrated yeast for the first time, but chilling took too long because it was summer and tap water was never cool. Yeast was in water, being active more than 30 minutes. How would it affect beer? Nothing. That actually might honestly help the yeast a little bit. It shouldn't be a detriment, though. So if you just rehydrated it and just plain water in there, it's not getting the yeast back up active and going, so you're not seeing active fermentation. If you bread starter rehydrated it, where you throw it in, the warm water with a little bit of sugar to get it back up active and going, the 30 minutes might have actually helped get more up and going.
Yeah, it's not enough to the point where the yeast are going to start to eat each other. If you go for too long, the yeast will just be like, I've got no food and I need to eat, so I'm going to eat my friend. But in 30 minutes, you're probably still fine.
Yeah.
I doubt hardly anything has been eaten.
I love this question right here, right now. This is a great example of how you don't need to use crystal malt and you can have a better beer. John Clark, what does Genus use to give an American Pale Ale darker color without crystal malt? Proper malts.
Yeah.
Well,
better base malts.
Better base malts. That's
American Pales can be very light, by the way, so they don't have to be dark at all. But if we're going for that like orange northwesty kind of color, or that almost into amber kind of color, there's a ton of things we can do. We can use a darker base malt. We can add Munich malts. We can just do processes that will darken the beer over time. His favorite malt, Chevalier, comes in at like 6 level bond, and that one will redden the beer like a tremendous amount, even if you only use like 20 to 30% of it.
Chevalier is so sexy.
So sexy.
That would be a great malt for it. Well, and that's the deal. Like, what pale ale are you talking about? Because if we're going for Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, that's about a base malt color. That's
a 2 malt beer.
Light beer on it.
Base malt and acid malt for pH adjustment.
Yeah. If we're going for more of a Northwest style of pale ale, and typically in hoppy beers, the Pacific Northwest gets a little bit darker in color. Well, we also had a huge German population influencing our brewing practices. So it's not caramel that you should traditionally be using to make those colors. It's something like Munich to get it out of there. Or caramel pills. Caramel pills is perfect for something like that.
And that adds a little fluffiness to it. And if you're ever using carapils, use caramel pills instead.
A smaller amount because it has a darker color, but use caramel pills or chit.
Chit's great.
Yeah.
If you're using anything that you want puffiness in it, that you like a little graininess to, chit's good. What?
It's the chit.
Some good shit, man.
That's a twofer for you. Yeah, so those are great ways to get it. In fact, Great Western makes a base malt called Northwest Pale Malt. Well, it's called High Color Pale. They used to call it Northwest Pale. But,
hey, we have 69 people watching us. Nice.
Yeah, that's how we do it. But using that High Color Pale, using a Maris Otter will get you that color without using crystal, and will be so much more tasty.
So much more tasty.
All right.
Tuan Bowie, thoughts on steeping roasted malts versus mashing with the rest of the grist? Depends on what you're doing. If you're trying to debitter, first of all, you should choose debittered malts or chocolate malt specifically. But yeah, you can definitely, in like a black IPA, steeping's cold steeping is very appropriate to try to reduce some of the acrid astringency. But there are styles where that astringency, that coffee, that fresh brewed coffee flavor that's got some acidity to it, is appropriate, and especially if it's backed up with some sweetness from the rest of your grist, then you mash it. So
yeah, I would say it's beer specific on that. If you can't get a hold of a debittered malt and you're trying to make a Schwarz beer, cold steep, 100% cold steep. If you're trying to make, a Baltic Porter, tropical IPA, tropical stout, a really smooth dark beer, steep it. Pastry stouts, actually, I'll kind of go for that too. You're really trying to make that smoothness out of the dark character, cold steep it. But there are styles where that's completely inappropriate. Most regular porters, American Porter, Robust Porter, American Stouts, Russian Imperial Stout. Nope, don't cold steep. You want that aggressiveness from the malt.
The other reason to cold steep would be if you have very, very neutral water, so close to the pH of 7, and you're going to be adding a lot of dark malts. You want your mash to not be too acidic, and so steeping your dark grains on the side to reduce the amount that your pH is changed by your mash would also be appropriate.
Yeah. Nope. We can't answer that. Okay. Fine. Oh, here we go. USMC Mike 1. Just got a new Spike Flex Plus. Getting into pressure fermentation. What are your thoughts on when to and how when not to do it? Also, any tips? Thank you for the super chat.
Appreciate it.
You just flipped my chat screen, so you're getting your question answered. Sorry to people we skipped over. We're coming back for you. God, this is just such a great beer.
This is tasty.
Next level, send us more beer.
Pressure fermentation is a very, very valuable tool, and especially if you have a spunding valve, there are a lot of styles that will do it. In general, any beer that you want to dampen fruity yeast characteristics from, pressure fermentation is going to be a good option, or at least open fermentation for the first little bit, and then when the fermentation starts to slow down, spund and pressurize the rest of it. That's just a good way to save some CO2 and naturally carbonate the beer. Natural carbonation to me can make the beer taste more full. The reason being, if you're adding extra CO2 into that, any CO2 is going to isomerize into carbonic acid in the beer. And so if there's natural acidity from the fermentation and you're adding extra acidity from tanks of CO2 that you're pushing into the beer, you're going to make a brighter beer, which can be good for things like an American light lager or some IPAs like a West Coast style IPA, but pretty much all of the beers will benefit from that natural carbonation that comes from spunding. And so like a hazy IPA or a juicy IPA where you want that softer profile, spunding or some layer of pressure fermentation towards the end of it, so open fermentation at the beginning, pressure at the end, would be really good. And then any beers that you want an overall clean profile, without having to wait a long time, you can do the entire fermentation under pressure, especially if you can't get the temperature all the way down to like lagering temperatures, for example, and you want to do 3470 as your yeast, the fine Stefan lager strain at like 62 to 65 degrees.
Yeah. There's a couple of things in here down on the end. We're going to go back up, get some other questions. But Daniel, Pacific Northwest Pale. It didn't get discontinued. It's the same thing as the High Color Pale. Oh, well. Got it. Not drinking out of that glass. It's the same thing as the High Color Pale that's from Great Western. Same exact malt, just a little bit different name. So if you're used to using that, use that. Nick Boone, thanks for the suggestions. Much appreciated. Would we be interested in some beer from Vermont? VT, I believe that's Vermont. There's a few small breweries you probably never heard of that you think we'd enjoy, and the answer to that is 100% yes.
Yeah, we're not gonna say no to beer, and especially if you think it's good beer that we haven't tried yet, we would love that. That'd be awesome.
And in all honesty, that's actually kind of something in that we don't at all mind drinking bad beer. Bad beer is how you know good beer. You can't learn off flavors unless you have them. Oh. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with drinking it and studying it. Now, granted, we probably won't finish the glass, but we'll at least drink it, study it, find out what makes it bad, where it could have gone good, and it's still very informative.
That's why we recommend everyone send us beer.
Exactly.
Charlie Posen, hey guys, I'm a beginner home brewer. I've made about 12 batches, and I have had trouble with small off flavors. Any recommendations on technique? Yes, we actually have a whole video on this. Things that will instantly make you a better brewer, basically. The number one thing that I see people not doing that they should do way earlier than they think is make a yeast starter. Mm-hmm. Healthy, active yeast is the number one tool you have for making commercial quality beer.
Second thing I'm going to suggest that's going to vastly improve your beer and actually could be giving, if it is the exact same off flavor that's in every beer, change your water.
Yeah.
There might be something in your water that's happening that is giving you bad off flavors. Maybe where you're at in the city, you have an extra high concentration of chlorine and you're just not getting it all boiled off. Or your bicarbonate is so damn high that you just can't make a hoppy beer. So if it's the exact same flavor, if they're different off flavors, it's probably not your water.
Yeah.
But if it's the exact same off flavor, change your water.
CH Homebrew for Life does. He lives in a different area than us, and he always just goes to the store and gets his 5-gallon jugs filled with the water from the store for like 30 cents a gallon.
Isn't he in California?
Yeah.
Yeah, that explains it.
We're really lucky to have the water we have here, especially in this spot right now. We have super, super neutral water. It doesn't have chlorines in it. It doesn't have off flavors. And so we're very, very fortunate that we don't have to do too much to our water other than just a little bit of basic chemistry. But those are the two probably easiest things to do to make sure you're doing well. Yeah.
All right, let's get into this next beer. This is a hand label from Crafty Bastard Brewery, and I already love you because Crafty Bastard is a great name. Don't know actually what this is. This is hand labeled. It was on the piece of paper that they sent us, and unfortunately, when we saved it really well and can't find it right now. We'll probably link back in the description or something like that, actually, what it is. This is HBBQ. And the only thing I can think of is honey barbecue.
Yeah.
And if it's a honey barbecue beer, I am into this so much.
It's gluten reduced as well.
Is it? Oh yeah, it is.
Which that usually means, so that's like kind of what Square Mile does. Square Mile is Widmer's brand. Square Mile? No, it's Omission.
Omission is
Omission, Widmer's brand. It's also Widmer, but Square Mile is cider.
Oh yes, it is. Omission is their brand.
Yeah, but they use an enzyme during fermentation that breaks down the gluten. And also clarifies the beer.
Yeah. Stone Delicious IPA also does the same thing. Technically, a lot of these beers could be classified as gluten-free because the enzyme does reduce it all in such a way that there shouldn't be any gluten in there. But unfortunately, it does come from gluten sources, and you cannot claim that. I would not recommend heavy celiac people try these without, proper medical watch or something like that. If you need completely gluten-free beer, see if you can get your hands on some Ghost Fish. They are awesome.
Yeah.
This smells like an IPA. Oh, wow. I'm not going to drink the rest of that right now. That is heavy yeast.
I think honey barbecue might be the what it is. It's smoky.
Smoky.
Yeah, it's got some nice smoke to it.
I am so excited about this. So excited.
I get a little bit of honey, but honey in the floral sense. So it's got honey that would make, if it was honey, I'm not going to 100% say it is, but there's like a floral sweetness.
Yeah. It's, well,
like
it's almost like
blossoms.
when you're smelling raw honey. It's still got, I mean, like the honeycomb in there. There's that little bit of, there's almost a little bit of sourness on the nose, but not sour beer.
And it's earthy on the palate. It's got like, well, it's got some grit to it, and not in a bad way, but it's got some earth and dirt kind of tones too.
This, yeah. All right, this is a beer. My impression from this beer is that it's just a really, really nice, almost pale ale, but not quite pale ale, that has sat in a true smokehouse barbecue joint for so long, it absorbed the smoke from the atmosphere. You know, like when you go into a real smokehouse barbecue and you walk out smelling like the smoke of the actual smokers. Yeah. Like that's the smoke in this. It absorbed it from the barbecue joint rather than purposefully being smoked, and I love it.
I'm gonna say it's like the crust on a freshly barbecued chicken breast.
Oh.
Like it's not burnt, but it's got a little bit of that kind of, and then it's got all the flavors and everything like that.
Or just crust on bread that was cooked with fire.
Yeah.
That, well, not with fire, with smoke, with like in an actual smoker. It's so nice, light, and pleasant. This is beautiful. This is exactly what I want to drink in a barbecue place. I mean, the mound of meat in front of me that I get to put in my face, this would be the perfect beer. Yeah.
The one thing that I will say is I probably wouldn't session this in a barbecue house. I think that would start to get too...
It would be a little overwhelming.
Yeah. I'd probably start with this. So I was like, I can get all the flavors all together with my food. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I'd go to like something super, super light, like the first Mexican lager we had.
Actually, that would be perfect. There is some harsh bitterness, some harsh astringency on there that if it was calmed down, if it was just a little bit less and let that malt sweetness shine through, I think would be a little bit better. But that's a top rate beer. I mean, that's really great. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun.
I love it. Pressure ferment.
All right, where are we at?
What's the oldest liquid yeast you have used? I have some from earlier this year. I was thinking of making a starter and saving that. Would that work? And you don't want to hear my answer.
For me, it's probably 14 months.
In this place, we have gotten a strain, I think that was a year and a half old to revive. That was Roselaire, and Roselaire is different. I'm not going to say that for everything.
It's mixed culture. It's got bread in it, which Brett never dies.
We also, it's been very specific. Most English and British English and American strains, I'd say 6 to 8 months is probably as old as we've gone. A lot of lager strains we've pushed a year and a half, and a lot of Belgian strains we pushed for about a year too. Don't recommend it. You need to get a great yeast starter going first. It's been done.
Takes a lot of build up. It's not easy to do.
We do that because we're a homebrew shop. We have yeast that expires, and we want to use them for beers. Save costs and all that kind of fun stuff. So not recommended. Use fresh yeast when you can, but if you are great at yeast starters, go for it. See what you can do.
Suicide exempt. Herbal tinctures, or to throw straight into fermenter, maybe Whirlpool. Attempting an herbal floral IPL. We've done some great live streams with a dude named Thomas Croskery that talks about herbs, and that very much depends on the types of herbs. A lot of them, a good average is Whirlpool is going to be great for a lot of them. There are some of them with more delicate flavors that a tincture is going to be better. So like lavender, for example, tincture is going to be probably the easiest thing to do. But you can also use lavender instead of for the floral component for a bittering component, in which case you can boil it for like 15 minutes. So We are not the best people to ask about that. We've done a handful of them, but Thomas, whenever we have him on, he is the person to ask about if you have specific herbs that you want to throw in there. He knows way more than we do.
Yeah, what Peter's trying to say is DM Emrys Fermentations. EMRYS Fermentations here in Spokane. That is Thomas. You need to follow them anyway. But that's Thomas, and he has the absolute best answers. There may come a day that maybe we do a video on just all the kind of fun stuff you throw in beers like that.
Yeah.
Also, if you didn't hear it about lavender, put lavender in more shit. I love lavender.
But don't do it wrong, because then it gets soapy.
No! Make good lavender stuff. Damn it. All right.
Nocturnal Brewer, not a question, but since we spoke of the overuse of USO5 to pick up 3 new yeast packets to try, Verdant, Voss, and Philly Sour. I know the sour is not comparable.
I'm going to tell you right now, Verdant is probably my absolute and utter favorite hazy IPA yeast right now. That yeast is incredible. It is fast and reliable fermenter out there. It produces some of the juiciest flavors I have seen in hazy IPAs since I've been using it. And it's also a dried yeast and is a little bit cheaper than liquid. So
I'll throw out, you can also use it in great ambers, porters, anything that you want a little bit of extra fruitiness from the yeast to come out. It's a more versatile yeast than you think. Think of Verdant like you'd think of like SO4.
Verdant, I think, Verdant comes from the Verdant Brewery in England. The closest equivalency that I've seen to it is London Ale 3 or Juice from Imperial, but for me, it's just better. It produces a cleaner flavor off of that. A lot of the time in Juice or London Ale 3, I still get a little bit of that breadiness from the yeast coming out. And Verdant, to me, just doesn't have that. I love that yeast.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Voss is an incredible Quake strain. I would say it's the most farmhousey of all the Quake strains, but that doesn't mean you're getting a Saison out of it. It's got a little bit of that funk. It's got a great citrus underneath. If you colder ferment it, and I mean cold for what Quake is, 60? No, well, 65.
Yeah.
If you colder ferment it, you can get a pretty clean fermentation coming out of it. If you warmer ferment it, you can produce very good Saison-like beers as well as really good, hazy IPAs. It's a great versatile strain.
Yeah, that's fun.
The Philly, being a sour fan,
Philly's a unique banana.
yeah, I was a little underimpressed by Philly just because I love sour beers, and it just did not produce enough acid for my taste in particular. But that is a beautiful strain to work with if you were scared of souring bugs.
Javier Torino, steam juicer versus fruit press. Which one do y'all think is better? Fruit press for the overall, steam juicer for the cheapness.
The difference between this, the steam juicer is going to take a very specific cross-section of flavors. The fruit press is going to take the whole orchard fruit flavors. Had stuff done with both. I actually just had a cherry wine done with a steam, and that was incredible. I mean, that was like drinking alcoholic cherry pie filling, and it was amazing. But that was for myself, it was missing that little bit of amaretto flavor that you get from the skins and from the pits that are in there. So
Nocturnal Brewer, do you guys think you're really going to be able to finish all those beers before the end of the show?
yes.
Bet.
Yeast and the Beast. Excuse me? There is no excuse for you, so move on, son.
Excuse you. Yang Yak Hiao. I like hearing you guys butcher my name all the time. No apology necessary. I went for it that time because I was like, comment.
You did.
The comment game.
I know you appreciate us. It's just as a person with a difficult last name, I get it sometimes. You're like, yeah, you made an attempt, so I'm just going to come down and assume you meet me. We did the oldest league. 69. That's the chit. Yes, it is.
David Collette, I pressure ferment in corny keg, floating dip tubes when the keg kicks. What are your thoughts on pitching new wort on the old keg? Any reason it shouldn't be working fairly well? The downside to pressure fermentation is it does risk yeast autolysis over successive fermentations. That said, you're probably okay for a second pitch, but it'll definitely, as it builds up, you can't consecutive pitch pressure fermented yeast cakes as many times as you can a natural fermentation, an open fermentation.
Pikey Scott, hey fellas, I made 5 gallons of peach cider and used Logan QA23. I just sampled. It's way too dry and champagne-esque bite. Any thoughts on how best to sweeten it back up? Honey? Okay, it kind of depends on what you're trying to do it in the very, very end. I like QA23 actually for cider fermentations because it does produce some really good tropical fruit flavors and very clean, bright flavors. You probably had a large amount of sugar to not enough residual flavor being left over. Peach is delicate. It doesn't have a lot of acid associated with it or the tannins that you can get out of it. In all honesty, next time, we'll talk about this time, but next time I suggest you actually ferment with the peach pits as well, and you'll probably preserve a lot more of the peach flavor coming through. But back sweetening it up. RU4's 86 kind of already helped answer that a little bit. Oh, nice. Well, I was just gonna say, if you're trying to carbonate it, you need to use a sugar that's unfermentable, like monk fruit, and I think that
carbonate in the bottle.
Yeah, if you're gonna naturally carbonate, if you're gonna use yeast to carbonate it, you need to use an unfermentable sugar. Monk fruit is our favorite. Otherwise, using something that's going to complement the flavors. If you're using honey, I don't suggest. Excuse me.
If you can go into a keg, you can kill the yeast and use whatever. You can use honey. You can use juice concentrate, peach concentrate, apple juice concentrate, whatever you can find.
Molasses.
If you want peach pie kind of flavor, that'd be pretty good.
Really good.
Add a little some M&M.
Yeah, maple actually would be good in that too. Just keep in mind that the flavor of the sweetener that you're adding to it will come across. So clover honey, probably not the best, but if you could have a wildflower honey and you could almost take it into that peach blossom, that could be really delicious.
Nick Moon just read the beer from Vermont comment that we already answered.
Yeah.
I'll just double check that yes is the answer.
Joshua Forson, I love your question so much. And everybody out there, I don't care if you're watching live stream, podcast, on YouTube later, can we send in our beer to you? Yes. Matt Weiser answered that, and thank you, Matt. Thanks for almost, kind of being a moderator on there. We appreciate you.
Matt's going to be our new Genus Discord moderator, too.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. We love Matt. He's a great guy. Yeah, send your beer in to us. We don't care if it's great, if it's good, if it's the best thing ever, if it's like, I fucked up and I need to know how. Oh, God damn it. Sorry. I'm getting there. Well, we're going to have to beep that. Beep.
Fucked up.
I beeped up and I don't know what I did. Send it in to us and we can try and help you identify problems as well. Is the Genus Discord still a thing? Yes. Matt answered. God. Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much. Yes, we try the best that we can.
Matt's got to make the links. He's got to make a new link.
Oh yeah, we gotta do. Something.
What's the max grams of sulfite for 5 gallon batch of IPA starting with sulfate?
Sulfite? No, sulfite.
Sulfate.
Potassium metabisulfite. I always say sulfite, but it's a sulfate.
No, sulfate is gypsum,
okay.
And sulfide is K meta. Yeah, so I'm guessing sulfate. So max grams of sulfate for a 5 gallon batch, I would say 12 for a really, really heavy, like if you're going Burton on Trent water, that'd be kind of the most that I would go.
What water are you starting with?
RO water.
This is important.
He said RO water.
Oh, okay. So I didn't hear you say that.
I didn't. I skipped over it. I was just going right to the question.
All right.
For those listening who have no context of what's going on in the chat, with RO water, what's the maximum amount of sulfate that you would add to the beer? I'm guessing by sulfate he means gypsum, calcium sulfate, and that would be 12 grams. And that's Burton on Trent levels, aggressive. You could probably go as light as 3 or 4 grams and get a good West Coasty kind of vibe. It doesn't take too much.
Yeah, I'm on this question right now, and I think
we have 7 grams in our kit.
Yeah.
Kit West Coast, just for the record.
The West Coast for sulfates. Actually, I keep it kind of low. I think 7 is the highest that I've gone.
Okay.
On that. Crafty Brew Rich. Any ideas for a NEPA North or a New England IPA or hazy IPA, basically, that aren't the typical Citra Mosaic or New Zealand varieties? I'm going to give you my absolute favorite. Columbus. Or CTZ.
Columbus is a gangster.
Oh my God. Like Columbus, this is a hop that even when it came out through the classic old school C hop days to nowadays is a little bit underrated. Columbus is amazing. If you use Columbus more towards the bittering end, it's just going to be super dank and piney and resiny. If you use Columbus in the whirlpool and dry hop, that is going to be some of the biggest citrusiness that you have seen. It is an awesome hop. My absolute favorite hazy IPA that was ever produced was Head Full of Dynamite version 2, and it was Vic's Secret in Columbus. And that to me is the hazy IPA I've been chasing ever since. It's also one of my favorite hops. To go along with that, a lot of your classic C-hop West Coast hops that people don't think about go perfectly into hazies too. Amarillo would be an amazing hop to use with that as well. And, you know, some other varieties that they're new out there. There's a lot of upcoming ones. Sativa was great. Zambia is a really good one to use in there too. But as far as that I'm going to throw this out there too, Chinook.
Yeah.
Chinook. A Columbus Chinook with a background of Vic's Secret. Do it. Send it to us right now.
Bruno Dave, do you know of any ways to capture the most CO2 from fermentation? Given vast quantities released, it seems impossible to capture more than a few % without some fancy gear. If you mean into the beer, then yes, you need some sort of closed pressure fermenting kind of system. If you mean into something else, which I've seen a lot of people use that CO2 for things like greenhouses, for I don't know, lots of other stuff, for blanketing other beers while they do other stuff to them. There's ways to do that pretty cheaply. But if you mean into the beer, you kind of need a spunding valve or a pressure fermenter.
Pretty much.
Madison Borer, check out the Lallemand talk on Philly Sour. They recommend pitching 1 to 1.5 grams per liter, larger pitch rates.
Yeah. The Philly Sour is just something I haven't experimented around with enough to probably make the best beer out of it. That being said, as a home brewer, I quickly went into sours because they're expensive and you can't find a lot of good ones. So
But to make yourself, all they take is time. They're dirt cheap to make yourself.
So
they're just expensive to buy.
I developed those skills before anything else. I mean, I could make a sour way better than I could make an IPA, and that seems silly. But so for my experience, Philly Sour is just not something I've experimented with enough.
Tyler Kipping has a great question that goes along with this. Have you done a no boil quick sour?
All of our kettle sours.
100% of our beers that we sour. Well, not 100%.
Not 100%.
All of our kettle sours that we do are no boil quick sours.
100%, because there's no reason. There is absolutely no reason to boil it, especially if you're using a blend of lactose to get a better, rounder flavor. You can avoid some of the meaty wheat flavors that are in there, and if you give them the right amount of time to ferment out, and even when it's quick, it takes a couple of days. You can ferment out all those extra proteins, and it gives you some really good flavor.
When you use even for some long-term aged sours, if you're using Brett, a lot of Bretts will just chomp on any off flavors that can come out of not boiling. So,
are we going brown or IPA?
Yes, we did one barbecue IPA. So let's stick to the IPAs.
All right, let's go with the milkshake first, and then. Who is calling right now?
We have 5 minutes, people.
God said. This is going to be great. We're going to have a great conversation.
You put on speaker?
Thank you for calling Genus. We are live on the air.
You should have put it on speaker.
Oh, man. The lactic acid that we have is 88%. As far as the actual pH, do you know what the pH of our lactic acid is?
It's 88% lactic acid.
I mean, it's extremely low. As far as the exact, if you look up the pH of lactic acid, it'll probably be that.
What's he using it for? We can calculate. We can use a calculator for him.
All right, so he's trying to use. You are literally on our live stream right now, so I'm going to repeat back a couple of your questions. He's trying to use lime juice and substitute for lactic acid. All right, so lime juice has a different acid than that. A lot of it is going to be ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, as well
citric
as citric acid.
Have a little bit of malic
A
acid.
little bit of malic acid, and those acids are a lot more aggressive than lactic acid is, so it's not going to be a straight across pH. They have different flavors and different reactions.
Yeah, lactic acid, out of all those, lactic acid is the only true strong acid, though. So in terms of pH adjustment, lactic acid would be the stronger.
Yeah, if you're using it for a pH adjustment,
you'll hit flavor threshold way earlier with the lime juice.
With lime juice, yeah. Sorry. Again, we're talking about it here. If you are using it as a pH adjustment, lactic acid will work a little bit better, especially if you're using the pure 88%. So if it's a pH adjustment, that'll do it. But as far as flavor threshold, the lime juice is going to hit way sooner than lactic acid on it. And it's not exactly going to be a straight across on there. The flavor, so using the lime as a flavor instead of an acid adjustment, your zest is going to be where everything is at rather than the juice. Your zest is going to be way more potent because you have all the lime oils to it than the juice is on that. But the juice having the acid is something that you still want to make sure it doesn't turn sweet in the fruity pebbles and remains in that liminess. At that point, if you're doing it that, I would say scale it, get a small scale. Small scale being like 8 ounces, and then start adding in a controlled amount, a couple of milliliters here or there to it, and scale it up to as much as you want to go. You're welcome. You do. Guy's doing some soft seltzer water. It's going to be really funny if he actually goes back and watches this and finds out it's live. I don't know that he believed me. All right.
Probably not. So now we're drinking the Juicy IPA from ELST Brewing Company. Elst. Made with Citro Mosaic and Amarillo, brewed with lactose. So the lactose in a lot of these juicy style IPAs is just a little bit for fullness. That helps support some otherwise bitterer components that can come from all the hop stuff. But let's get back into, well, here's a seltzer-based question already. Best sugar type and yeast strain combo for seltzer. Also, best way to clean up sulfury non-clear base. Have used carbon inline filter in the past. Any other tricks? Thank you. So for seltzer, the easiest to use is going to be Lutra and Proper Pitch. That said, it's going to be your classic White Claw flavored champagne-y dry seltzer. We use French Saison with a combination of nutrients that Tim put together.
So, best sugar type and yeast strain combo. If you're going for something quick, easy, and simple, and in all honesty, the cheapest and easiest sugar type to use is dextrose. Corn sugar, it's flavorless, it's cheap, it dissolves so readily, and it actually has a higher sugar content to the little granule than a lot of other sugars out there.
Yeah, and dextrose is different than regular corn sugar, by the way, because corn sugar has dextrose in it, but the dextrose that you get in a homebrew supply store it's
pure dextrose.
Yeah, it's synonymous with glucose. It's a single. What is a hexagon shape? Yeah. Single one of those things.
It's the most simple form of sugar out there, which basically means yeast has no effort to eat it at all. Keep in mind, any other sugars that you're using for it, if they have residual flavors, the residual flavors will cross over. Molasses is going to give you that kind of dark, rummy flavor coming from it. It's like brown sugar or turbinado. They're just going to be a little bit weaker. Honey is going to have all those aromatics and that little bit of sweetness and whatever they ate to, pollinize or got the nectar from, be it buckwheat. I would not make a seltzer out of buckwheat honey. It'd be interesting, but I personally wouldn't.
Try it.
Wildflower to clover, you're going to have a little bits of that. Maple is super delicate, but you're still going to get a little bit of that woody character, the maple coming through in your sugars. So keep that in mind. The easiest is dextrose, just straight up dextrose from your homebrew shop. It's cheap, it's readily dissolvable, super, super fermentable. Like Peter was saying, proper pitch, seltzer nutrient, as well as Lutra is stupid easy. You chuck that stuff in, you wait for like 4 days, it's fermented out, and in 5 days, it's pretty much clear and ready to go. That stuff is awesome. We love it. We recommend it.
Yeah.
Why we use French Saison is because it makes long chain flavor molecules and adds some body to the seltzer.
While still being low calorie.
Low calorie French Saison is diastaticus. It doesn't need to be, but it's diastaticus. It's a killer strain. It still ferments out stupid dry, but leaves a full body. We love that in seltzer. Mm-hmm. It adds a little bit of flavor that, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it's flavor, and you enjoy it, and it melds into all of the other flavorings that we put into our seltzer really well.
I just say it tastes like natural fermentation.
Yeah. We do have more problems with it being hazy on that. If you give it enough time, it's going to clarify out. You give it time, it's dropping out. But if you need it to drop out sooner, we found that the 2-stage Kilsasol Kaidozan works really well on that. I don't like using gelatin, but gelatin will work well. Using the carbon filter will work well on that. But, in all honesty, being in the craft scene here, we found, especially with specific flavors, people really don't mind and kind of enjoy when there's a little bit of haze in it.
Yeah. Nick Moon, I want to try warm fermenting. We suggest 3470, correct? That is correct. How long would you cold store / lager? 5 weeks, as long as you can. It'll be a good beer in like 3 weeks, like from the day you brew it. But if you want that proper lager after that, and when you store it in bottles, 5 weeks. Give it time. If you're patient, it'll pay off.
Yeah. Joel, as unfortunate as it is, low ABV beers, 0.5 to 2%, don't sell. Have you ever tried one and succeeded finding a good balance? We haven't tried low ABV. The yeast to do that and the processes to do that are actually cost prohibitive for us. I have had some amazing ones. And in fact, the Shoots has a 0.5% to lower line that they do, and 2% lower. What is it? It's like nearly squeezy or a little squeezy or something like that. It's a 2% IPA that is awesome. They have a 0.5% or lower Irish Stout that was incredible that I was trying. I mean, full flavored, and you wouldn't know that they're non-ABV beers. So they are out there. You can do good. I just don't. We haven't experimented with them yet.
Yeah. Brad Alsop saying hi from Mount Vernon. Stopped by a few weeks ago on my way to Yellowstone. Got a growler of hazy and it was awesome. Thanks for buying a growler from us. And also I'm glad you liked it. Matt and Suicide Exempt.
They won't
stuff about Discord.
Yeah, they won't let them post stuff over there.
Do I have to make you a moderator? How do I make you a moderator? Add moderator. Matt,
right.
You're now a moderator. See if that helps.
Here we go. RU486. I made a Pseudo Lager with Lutra, and I'm getting a sour cider-like flavor, acetaldehyde. Is it possible that I overpitched? Oh, no. Actually, this is something that I have noticed with Lutra, that you get a tiny, tiny touch of green apple skin in there, especially on hot, fast fermentations. Personally, I love it. That's a flavor that's indicative, actually, of Bavarian lagers. A lot of the time, the German lagers will have that tiny, tiny touch of green apple skin in it. I personally love it. As far as your question, is it possible that you overpitched? Yes, if you did a starter, you overpitched. 100%. I don't know if that's what's causing the problem, but Lutra's Quake, and I think in a 5-gallon batch, you need like a teaspoon of slurry, and that's a proper pitch. Other than that, but I just talked over you. I'm sorry. Other than that, personally, I love that little bit of green apple skin. It's a flavor preference, I think.
I was tuning out. I was about to say, I was just about to jump on the Rivera.
Oh, yeah.
Made the sour 2 years ago, transferred into a keg. How long will it keep? Will it change in the keg? Yes, it will. Mm-hmm. Hopefully. Keep it until it's what you want to drink.
Yeah. In all honesty, I would, depending. If this is a kettle sour,
well, yeah, good
it's
point.
going to change over time, but it's going to be a very soft, subtle change. You're not going to notice much of it. If it's a mixed firm sour, hell yes. And it also depends on how you keep it. The cooler you keep it, the more funk it's going to get. The warmer you keep it, the more sour it's going to get. And it'll be beautiful keeping it longer and longer. There's nothing wrong with that.
We're back at 9:55. Nocturnal Brewer. 5 minutes and 4 more beers. We've got until somebody comes in. So
yeah, caller number 1. What's your name? I love that. I mean, I just don't honestly think he believed me when I said you're live, because we would answer the phone like that anyway normally. This is a great. I haven't got a chance to try it. This is a really good juicy IPA.
Yeah, pretty solid. It's almost so you can tell that without the lactose, it'd almost be a little bit too astringent, look a little bit too sharp.
A little bit too sharp.
But yeah, the lactose definitely helps build that body. It's good.
Yeah. All right. Okay. What about battery acid? Can I sub that? No.
Slightly less effective.
Yeah. The flavor threshold for battery acid is so low that you couldn't add it without affecting the flavor effectively. If you people start calling us during the live stream,
we'll probably stop answering and just unplug the phone.
Yeah, more than likely.
Hey, Matt Weiser, now that you're, yes, it fixed it. Sweet. So now Matt's, so if anybody else needs a Discord link, Matt's now able to put the Discord link on here.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, we're going to get to that. White Lab, Seltzer Max, and Lalvin QA23 for Seltzer worked for Tuan Bui. And actually, I think the White Lab Seltzer mix is really great, too. That's a good seltzer mix. The QA23, I think, will be amazing for seltzer. It's going to still give you that super, super dry white wine type of seltzer, but the little bit of fruitiness that can come from QA23 could really blend well. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Ruindu. I have a bottle of barrel-aged Saison laying in my fridge for the past year.
Yes, you can send it to it. That's not the question?
Well, no, that's the answer, is send it to us.
Yeah.
Please. Will there still be viable culture in there to be pitched for a wild Saison? Maybe. If the biggest thing that's living, if it's wild, will probably be something funky and very akin, if not Brett. Saison yeast has a potential to wake back up and start fermenting again, but it's going to be very difficult, and it will not be the same.
Saison yeast is hardy, and it probably survived in the fridge. If it wasn't in the fridge, I'd say not a chance. But Saison yeast is hardy, so there's a chance it'll pick back up, but it's probably not going to be the dominant character. And unless you do a really good starter and kind of build up and know that your starter's tasting and smelling like you want it to, it's more of a risk probably to add it to a new beer.
Yeah. It would be an interesting experiment. It will not be the same yeast culture, guaranteed.
Nick Moon, underrated beer of the week? Is that a question, or is that like a question about this? Or
we were going to start doing that. Underrated beer of the week. All right. Underrated beer of the week for me, because I just had a couple of these the other
last time we did Deschutes Obsidian Stout, right?
No, we did White Rascal.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, you took it from me. Obsidian. Obsidian. You're talking about Deschutes, and I love Deschutes. They make some amazing things. Unfortunately, if you're on the east side of the country, you probably don't get them as much as you should. But you know what? Let's not even take Obsidian Stout. Let's take Black Butte Porter.
Yeah. They're both good for different reasons.
Camera on battery is going. We're losing the battery.
Oh yeah.
Both of them are underrated for the exact same reason, and that's for being the absolute perfect example of that style. Like Black Butte, if you want to know what an American porter tastes like in the absolute perfect sense of the style, Black Butte Porter. Camera's going to go dark quick here for guys. Changing that. Black Butte Porter. Black Butte Porter is amazing. Absolutely amazing porter. So is Obsidian Stout. If you want to know what you should be making is those two beers right there. All right. The blonde Vector Ponder, bro, the blonde the other day, and I'm using a new glass airlock. It's dripping vodka once every 10 minutes, maybe into the carboy. Is this an issue? If it's vodka, not really, because that's not going to affect your flavor at all. It might be an issue if it dries out and you let unvodka'd air get in there, and it could be infected. T58 for Seltzer. Interesting. It could work. It could definitely work. Make one. Send it to us. See how it goes.
T58 is that same saison kind of thing we do.
Well, T58 is the Belgian.
I gotta make room for some more beer.
I was not wanting to interrupt the live stream, but he's already up. It's fine. T58 is Belgian rather than French. Belgian doesn't create the glycerins, basically. It doesn't create as much of the bodybuilding that the French Saison does, but that would also probably still be a really great strain. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Hi! We're back up. We're actually caught up on the live stream. Let's talk about this beer for a minute, because I didn't really get to talk about it. This is a really nice, juicy IPA, a hazy IPA. The lactose in it, this is not a milkshake. Like Peter was saying earlier, the lactose really helps bring it back into that juicy, hazy realm. For those of you guys out there, you're having problems of your hazies or juicies over attenuating or being too dry, lactose is a great way to bring it back into that nice sweetness. And you don't need to use much, and it won't go into the milkshake range, and it still will come out being a really nice, delicious, hazy, juicy IPA.
Yeah.
This is a good one. It's pretty darn tasty. I'm going to say it's kind of in the realm of most hazies and juicies taste the same because it's all Citra and Mosaic. There's no brewing flaws in it. I really like the flavor coming out of it. It's a good beer. It's a great beer. All right, you did it, so now I have to.
That's right. Broke the seal.
We're caught all the way up now.
Blickman Brew Easy Compact Thoughts. I actually haven't used that. Overall, the Blickman Brew Easy stuff I haven't worked with a ton. I think functionally they all look like they'd be great, but for the price, I don't know if it's the most efficient. But that said, I can't really speak on that. I love Blickman overall as a brand. I think I like their, we've endorsed their Riptide Pump, which is amazing. All their Anvil series stuff, for being as cheap as it is, it's quality. It's well thought out. It's well engineered. Overall, Blickman as a brand I trust, and so I'm sure it's good. But with the whole Brew Easy setup that I've seen before, it just hasn't, cost-wise in my brain, made sense. But I love them as a brand. Any suggestions for a Pseudo Schwarzbier? For a Pseudo Schwarzbier, we've kind of already talked about cold steeping the dark grains. I like that roasted barley flavor in Schwarzbiers, but the acidity, the acridity almost, is too much. It's an off flavor. It's more than it should be. So I would recommend cold steeping, or if you just went with like a combination of Carafa and chocolate malt, that's probably how to get your total roast malts. Obviously, Lutra is going to be the way to go with the Pseudo. So,
yeah.
What is the dream collab for us guys?
The dream collab?
Honestly, probably just Whistlepunk. We've had the option to collab with like big breweries like well, I'll just say, I'm not going to say them out loud, but we've had some opportunities to collab with some big breweries, and I would say overall it just doesn't make sense for us to take half of a 30 barrel batch or bigger because of how we sell. So right now, Whistlepunk would probably be my favorite people to collab with.
I mean, if it's an absolute dream brewery, there's a couple of them out there for different reasons.
Cantillon?
Yes, Rodenbach. I personally, in that vein, I probably would have said Leafman's, and I know Leafman's doesn't have the reputation of those two, but the Cuvée Brut was so influential in my brewing career, and I still love Cuvée Brut. I think they call it Creek now. That would be big on there. If it is one brewery out there that I wish I could collab with, and I think half of it would be to just love to hang out with the brewers, and then they could take me into the barrel room and we could die in there from drinking too many beers, would be Avery.
Yeah.
I would take half of 100 barrel batch to collab with Avery, I think. I would drink it all myself, but just to be in there and then go taste off of everything, that might be worth it.
I'd love to be involved in. I would love to just watch them do their barrel stuff. That'd be awesome.
Man, it'd be amazing.
Be there for a blending.
Like an actual blend. Hey, let's all sit down and decide which blend's going to be the best.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was fortunate enough to do a wine blending with, to make, so when I was working at Birch & Barley, we got to actually make our own house wine, blend our own house wine with a local winery down in Pullman. And being a part of that blending was a super fun experience. Because you'd be like, all right, let's take down this barrel and this barrel and this barrel. And then let's see what happens when you do 90% this, 10% this, 5% that. No, is it too acidic for you? Well, all right, let's take down this barrel. We're going to try it. Let's bring it down to 70% this and 40% or 20% that and 4% this and whatever. We just started taking down barrels.
That is one of the most amazing things. My brother-in-law is the head vintner at Walla Walla Vintners. Buy their wine. He is an incredible winemaker. I mean that. That's not me just trying to build him up. He is really good. He knows what the hell he's doing. And it's great, but to go in there, just go visit him at the winery, he gets so excited, and he'll literally just spider monkey up a few barrels, pull some out, come down and be like, oh yeah, so here's this new French medium toast oak, heads are neutral, came from this specific, are we going to break up the IPA? Let's just keep on IPAs. It's from this specific vineyard, from this appellation, and this year, and we'll taste it. I mean, literally, this guy is just Spider-Manning all over the barrel room, and now I have 4 glasses of barrel wines that are unblended, and they're just so amazing to taste all individual like that, and then come back together, and he's like, all right, so we got all of these. Now, in this glass, let's do this, and you end up with 6 glasses of wine from 8 different barrels. They're all completely different. It's amazing. If you ever get the chance to go do a barrel tasting somewhere, a winery, brewery, anything like that, do it. You will not regret it.
I had no idea how big of a difference small blendings could taste. So I had, you'd have 100% cab. It was 100% cab, and it was all right, this is, it's too acidic, it's too strong. You bring it down to 94% cab, just replace 6% of that with a Syrah, and then all of a sudden it's whoa, that's big and chocolatey. Small things happen that make a huge difference, and that's why really good winemakers, they have the craft kind of covered from all aspects of it. From the fermenting, it's not just fermenting and going into a keg; it's tasting, blending, and that's a big part of barrel works in beer too, that a lot of people don't really realize. Blending is the thing; it can make really good beers, but a lot of us think of all right, we got to have this perfect beer from the get go, and then whatever happens, right?
Well, this is one of my big. All right, here you go. For people who wanted to mark
CH, thanks for the super chat.
Yeah, thank you. For people who want to mark off the Stan soapbox on the bingo card, I'm going to get on it right now. Blending beer. More brewers need to blend beer. We should not be afraid of it, ever. You can make such a better product by blending than you can on a single fermentation alone. I don't know where the stigma came from in the brewing world. I absolutely hate it. Yeah, okay, tasting the fermented product as we intended it is a great idea, but if we can make that fermented product better and more enjoyable by blending it, then isn't that how we intended it to be the best way that it could? Like, blend your beers. Do not be afraid to blend your beers. You should be blending beers, especially on things like barrel-aged beers. Not even sours, but just barrel-aged beers in general. Mm-hmm. You can benefit from blending regular beers straight off your tap.
We do that all the time.
Don't be afraid of it. Embrace the blend. Make something completely new and unique and delicious. Because that's what beer is. Beer is delicious. It's enjoyment. And if you are being, I'm not going to say that. If you are being mean to people and snobby about blending beer, you're taking joy out of beer and you're not in the craft brew spirit.
Yeah. I have literally blended a $300 sixtel of beer with a $139 halftel of beer. I've done Coors Light and Fremont barrel aged,
and it can create a very delicious thing.
I wanted to know what happened. It was pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Let's all right. What are we drinking? Let's get into this.
Paper Crowns.
Paper Crowns. This is another one from Zool Beer Company.
Yeah.
Great. IPA with Citra and Citra Cryo. 6.8 on that, and that's all the information we get. Beautiful color.
Yeah.
No oxidation on it. That's looking great.
100% Citra.
That's Citra. Citrusy, dank, a little bit catty.
If I said one thing, it's almost it is catty. It's almost a little bit too soft on the punch though.
It is. It's very soft, very velvety on the nose. Velour.
And it does have with the cattiness, it has a little bit of hot bite. Overall, it's a good beer.
I don't know that I would necessarily call that an IPA. It's not an IPA. It's more than a pale ale, but it's silky. It is so soft and silky and delicate.
Yeah.
That's a great beer. I like this a lot more than I expected to. I'm going to say.
I'd say of the IPAs, I think it's my second favorite. I still want to say I like this one the best.
It's more punchy. I could drink. No, I don't know. Because it's so soft and it's so silky and light in there, I think it might get cloying after a couple pints.
Yeah. And the sweetness with the Citra dankness, to me, just I've never really it's never a good combination.
It's a really good beer. I'm not disappointed at it at all. I would love this pint if I ordered it. I will probably have a second, but I will probably have to change off of it after a second. That's a good beer.
I will always say things like soft, sweet, and silky to you.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
When am I coming back in your live stream? I'm in a house. I'm no longer homeless, so hopefully soon. I am still doing cross country though, so it's kind of hard to balance jobs in cross country and house.
Yeah. Okay. Tuan corrected himself. He tried blending a triple in the Lindemans, and then he comes back triple, not triple, and I enjoy him for that. I know they're the same thing, but a triple is a triple, and it should be labeled triple. And actually, that sounds really good.
I could see that.
Really good.
We should do a whole day where we just run to some beer stores and grab some proper beers and try blending them.
And blending them all, seeing what they come up with.
See what breweries come back at us and say they're really mad, and what breweries come back at us and are happy that we use their beer in a blending.
Right. If you are one of the people that's getting mad at us for blending your beer, you need to give me a proper 4-page essay on why I shouldn't blend your beer. And then, you know what? If you're right, I will agree with you, and I will admit it live here on air.
Yeah. Suicide Exempt. Last blender I tried was strawberry IPA and cucumber mint sour. That sounds great, but also that makes me think that we should create a new Avatar series. Avatar: The Last Beer Blender.
The joke of the day, people. Joke of the day. Oh, I'm into that. No, so it's going to be actually a constant staple here in Genus is you're going to have the Avatar beer, which is the last beer blender. And
yes.
That it's a blended beer that comes off of our taps, and you order it that way. It's going to be amazing. And that is phenomenal.
We got to get Reese involved because he's got the same Avatar culture.
Oh, we just got some. It's from the internet. I bought something from the random ads that pop up on Instagram and Facebook. And
to make your penis larger?
Yeah. Well, shh. Allison hasn't noticed yet. But
yeah, it's got to reach a certain point.
They were like travel posters of Ember Island, Ba Sing Se, Southern Air Temple, and the Northern Water Tribe Village, and amazing. Like I saw them online, they're like, "This is going to be cool." They came. Oh my god, they're amazing. I need to find the name of this company because if we can put them on YouTube and they can send me more stuff, it was incredible. I recommend it. They're awesome.
That sounds awesome.
It's one of those things that it's beautiful in the house, and I know most people are going to be like, "Oh, that's great. Where'd you get that from?" I'm like, Avatar. All right.
Callie Nash. By the way, I've never seen a female beer reviewing channel. Have you? If you have, do an impression of one to show me what a female brew channel is like. Lol. Don't know if I could do that. However, we just did hire a girl that would be great for reviewing beer.
Sky in to do a live stream, actually.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna honestly say this out there. Most of the female brewers and beer tasters that I have met are absolutely incredible and better than most of the male brewers that I've met. Now, let's also throw that into perspective that there's very few to a large many, so when you're comparing a pool wise, like, yeah, that's easy to overcome, but at the same time, they're almost all of them that I've met are pretty incredible.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm also afraid of Charlene.
You should be.
She could beat me up in a fight. Definitely. All right.
Homebrew for life. If you're gonna make a cinnamon toast crunch beer, what style would you go with? Stout, brown?
Hey, we already made one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't brown. Actually, cinnamon toast crunch brown would be great. I would also throw it out there that you could probably make a cinnamon toast crunch Mexican lager. If
that dark lager we had earlier today, as a cinnamon toast crunch beer, damn, that'd be good.
Shut your mouth.
I know.
My daughter started doing that when she eats, and I love it. That is two.
You have to get new glasses. We got one more beer to go.
I know. I absolutely love it when she, like, it kind of annoys me because she's making every bite. But at the same time, she picked it up because I watch too much anime, and I'm also like, you are going to be the oddest little duck, and I love you.
We got to get a lighter for that. Just heat up the whole glass.
Or we could just toss a little bit of the purple flame underneath. And... Anyway, what were we talking about?
CH mentioned that...
the cinnamon toast crunch. It's delicious. It's absolutely delicious. Put it in a Mexican beer. Make it a horchata.
But he also added that women outperform men in olfaction. I can guarantee my wife can smell better than I can.
Oh, God, yes. She will not say that, but I will tell you what. After half a day, I'm going, I need a goddamn shower. And she's going to be so embarrassed. The amount of times that I wish she would just, like, literally smother me. I'm going to leave between what to the imagination is at least 3 or 4 times daily.
Yeah, I mean, I think that should be standard.
That should be standard.
We need to create some expectations here, ladies.
That's right.
We're going to do malt blender, water bender, yeast bender, and hop bender.
Oh, no, here's all right, that would be fun. Nocturnal Brewers. Sarah Flora is a brewer and has a great channel, Flora Brewing.
Yeah.
You know, we need hey, yeah. Let's get that going.
Sarah, if you ever watch our channel, you should.
Mandatory beer chug. Everybody. Oh god, darn it.
You got 2 beers.
Well, I was saving it for later. That way we could get through all the beers, and this is not going to be a good chug.
Tim will do it if one more person. We'll get a whole beer if one more. I'll get a whole beer if one more person super chats us. That's the one. That's what I meant to say.
If another person super chats us next within the next 2 minutes, Peter and I will have a race between another whole beer and my small beer. It has to be at least $5.
And I will win. Matt says he's gonna beer chug once he gets to Genus.
All right, fine. I'll MBC this.
Oh, Jill did it. All right.
God damn it. Also, that had an air bubble. I apologize. Get some new beer glasses.
Oh yeah, you need some smalls too.
Thank you both. But don't thank you. That bubble did not sit well. All right. Ninkazi Homebrewer. And I love it.
Awesome name.
Yeah. We actually knew who Ninkazi is. Ninkazi is a great brewery. Oh, that bubble did not sit right. Ninkazi Homebrewer. Guys in the U.S., why do you love IPAs so much? There's a lot of other styles that have great taste. Greetings from Norway. One of those reasons is because of what Americans did with hops. And when something's American, Americans love to be America. And that's kind of it. And think about this. When we started growing hops, when we really started growing and influencing world beer culture, it's through hops. Sierra Nevada is one of the biggest examples out there of the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And making Cascade hops actually be a thing bigger than they were. It's lower now, but about 70% of the world's hops come from the U.S., and they specifically come from the Pacific Northwest. And we just really adopted that flavor and loved it to death because creating over-hopped beers was something that was uniquely American, and we just got behind that and loved it. I will kind of be with you on that. As a brewer, brewing IPAs is pretty boring. It's something that here at Genus we don't do a heck of a lot because it is. I mean, literally, it's the most boring beer that I make. I make the exact same beer every time. I just throw different hops into it. They're all amazingly delicious.
And there are plenty of brewers that do just as good, if not better than us.
Well, you know, this is a funny thing I found out the other day. Coming from other breweries, people are working in other tap rooms. One of the things that they hear about Genus a lot is about our IPAs, which is weird.
We do a pretty good job.
We do an amazing job at the IPAs, but we just do so few of them.
Yeah.
I love making other things, but hops are just something that Americans took a hold on to and there's so many different flavors and we love this. We're going to take this to 100 IPUs and, you and I'm not saying anyone in particular, but Brits is coming to mind, haven't seen anything like this hoppy, and then we just took off and ran with it. They're delicious. The differences in IPAs is awesome. I love all the new hops coming out. As far as why we need to hold on to IPAs here in the U.S., I don't know that I can give an accurate answer.
For me, I feel like IPAs, the best IPA I think has been done. I don't think there's going to be another crazy, amazing wow factor in IPAs. Whereas in so many other beers, we love brewing them because I feel like we can make the next best other beers.
There's a couple of beers, especially recently, that I've been incredibly proud of. and that has been our Volvox Stout and our Bier de Garde. The Volvox Stout, it just was a perfect example of a standard stout, but it dropped the flavor in the end. We brewed it when we had a heat wave. There's 100-degree weather outside. It was 120, I think, at the time. We didn't want a big, robust stout, but the way that came out was so incredible. Actually, I take that back. Probably the one that I'm most stunned and proud of was our Scottish Blonde.
Yeah.
That beer was
really fun. We got so many people interested in Scottish beers just because they were like, I want a light beer. And I'm like, try this. And they're like, wow, why does that have so much flavor?
And not a real style. We tried to take a Scottish red, just kind of that standard 60, 70 shilling Scottish red, and drop the color out of it and make a blonde beer out of it. And the response to that, a blonde, not your biggest seller in a craft brewery place. We threw Scottish on the front. Makes it even less of a big seller because most people are thinking of big, red, sweet, caramely, malty beers. That sold out faster than some of our IPAs. And stunning. I mean, humbling and stunning to be like, I know this is a good, delicious beer, but to see you guys respond in that way too was incredible.
You ready?
No.
CH, press the button.
Nastravi. I'm surprised I won.
Yeah.
Actually, I am. For those of you who don't know, Peter is very good at opening his throat hole.
That was a little slow for me.
Oh, the bubbles.
The bubbles.
The bubbles. All right.
All right, Brown.
Brown. All right. Ruindu, because you're right up front. You guys ever brewed some non-BJCP historic beers? Something along the lines of Munich Lager beer, Pale Mild, Horner beer, etc.? Yes, actually. There's a couple of styles that we've done that they're technically counted in other styles, but not a real BJCP style. Honestly, the favorite one that...
like Chicha.
Oh, Chicha, yeah. The favorite one that I think that we've done here was one that we did... This isn't even a non-BJCP style, but if you taste the beer, it's exactly what it is, was the Münchenbach. So imagine taking a great, proper München lager, and then boiling the shit out of it and turning it into a bock. That was amazing.
Super good.
You taste it and you're like, there's no other place besides München that this beer could come from. But it's a bock. That was delicious. That was a great beer.
Before Lichtenhainer was even on the BJCP historical styles, so pre-2015, we did a Lichtenhainer back then too. We've done a lot of like sour-based historical styles, a lot of farmhouse-based historical styles.
Actually, there is a historical style that I snuck in. We didn't even call it that because people don't know what the hell it is. I made a Bier de Mars here, and nobody noticed it. Bier de Mars is a very interesting and unique style. It's kind of almost the opposite of a Bier de Garde, where Maibach and Marzen are kind of the same thing, just made in different seasons. That's along with Bier de Mars and Bier de Garde, French style on there. I made one, we snuck it through, and I think I called it a Saison. It was amazing. I love Bier de Mars. If you guys don't know what it is, find one, drink it, and enjoy yourself. All right, let's talk about this brown.
All right, last one. We got Elst Brewing Company's brown. It's a Belgian-style double with some brown E kind of notes. Belgian-style double featuring a dark caramel flavor with subtle fruit notes from the Belgian yeast strain, made with wheat, Belgian, and pale malts, noble hops, and dark candy sugar. Pretty standard there.
I'm going to go ahead and say you mean Dubel.
Double. I say double.
I know.
I say double and triple, you know, and I'm always going to say double and triple.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but brewers, could you at least spell it Dubel and Triple? Let the customer say double and triple, but at least spell it Dubel and Triple.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you one thing that irritates me straight off. These guys called it a brown instead of a Dubel. If you're making a Dubel, call it a Dubel. I know that the style is somewhere in between brown and porter in the Belgian world. But when I hear brown, I'm expecting this nice English beer with a high roasty toast. And I haven't tried it yet. High roasty toasty notes. And when I hear Dubel, I'm expecting that really nice deep caramel fig. So let's try it. Let's see where they go.
Very high alcohol notes is the first thing I get. This almost tastes like a brandy. So it's got like that brandy kind of feel to it. It does have some just kind of brown underleaf notes, some autumn tones. It is not big and rich. It doesn't have the date and fig. It's got a little bit of that, but not a lot of the date and fig that Tim likes.
I'm less upset. This is a fall beer.
It's a brown.
I taste crispy leaves on the ground. You are walking through, you're walking home from school through the park with the big ass oak that just dropped all of its leaves on the ground. It's warm sun, but still cool, crisp air, and it's just crunch, crunch, crunch as you're walking through. That's this beer right now. It was literally this beer. There's not enough big, sweet, figgy notes as there would be in a Dubel. There's not huge, the big, like, bread crust notes that should be in a brown. It's a really nice marriage of the two, actually. I will say on the nose, there's some really high notes on the nose that it's not necessarily off-putting, but it's different. That's not something that I expected to come from this.
Yeah, the only thing that I could say that I would say might be taking points away from me is it's the high alcohols. It's a little fusily. It tastes hot, which I get how that goes into this because it kind of tastes like mulled wine almost, or like some sort of a hot apple cider with mulling spices. But yeah, that heat just doesn't. It's very noticeable to me.
It's a little incongruent, and I'll also say the really big notes of clove in here are a little incongruent for what I would want this beer to be.
Yeah.
I want more bubblegum for my Belgian. In this particular style, I want a little more bubblegum than I do want that clove. But good beer. This is a really nice beer. I'm enjoying it.
All right, I think we got somebody about to come in, so we're going to go ahead and start winding down this live stream so we can be ready for our first customer. But if you've got any other questions real quick before they come in, let us know. Other than that, Tim's going to start the closeout.
To clear an extremely hazy, i.e. muddy beer, is storing cold
super clear
for several weeks the only solution? No. Storing cold is a great solution just because you're not doing anything to adulterate your beer. You're not opening it up or anything like that. But a lot of good clarifiers are out there. Chitosan, Cusasol, gelatin, speedy bentonite, a whole bunch of other things. So that's good. All right, fine. Homebrew for life. Your customer t-shirt idea. The customer is always going to hell early. Maybe. Most of the time. What, you think they're important? Like we need your money to stay open or something? You pay our bills? Come on, son. You know you're right. All right. So on that note, we got people coming in. So thank you for tuning in. We had great fun on here. Great to see you guys this morning. Smash the like button. Follow us on YouTube. Follow Genus Brewing. Go ahead and follow our Instagram. Peter's Instagram, which is Genus Beer Miler, my Instagram, which is Genus Danger Boots. You can feel free to contact us on any of those. We will attempt to answer your questions. No guarantees.
If you guys are going to do an obligatory MBC, then send us a Facebook or Instagram short on it.
Yes.
Like
That's what Peter said. So if you're gonna give us a mandatory MBC, send us a thing on why we should do it, and then send us beer to do it with. All right, thank you very much. Have a good afternoon, morning,